Right now, somewhere in your house, something is plugged in. A fridge humming quietly, a phone charging on the nightstand, a light bulb you didn't even think twice about switching on. You flip a switch and power simply arrives. Instantly, reliably, every single time. You never wonder where it came from. You never wonder how it got there. You just expect it. But here's the strange part. The electricity reaching your house right now was very likely generated hundreds of kilometers away by a machine you've never seen, at a plant you've never visited, only moments before you used it. It wasn't stored nearby. It wasn't sitting in a tank waiting for you. It was made in the instant you needed it and delivered before you noticed it was gone. So, how does something invisible, moving at almost the speed of light, get manufactured on demand and delivered precisely to your wall socket every second of every day without you ever thinking about it? The answer is one of the most complex machines humanity has ever built, and you're connected to it right now. To understand why this system exists, you have to go back to a problem nobody could solve for most of human history. Electricity cannot be stored at scale. Unlike water, which can sit in a tank, or oil, which can sit in a barrel, electrical energy doesn't wait around. The moment it's generated, it has to go somewhere. If nobody uses it, it has nowhere to go. In the late 1800s, as cities began experimenting with electric lighting, this created a serious obstacle. Early power systems had to generate exactly what was being used in real time, with no buffer. Too little power and lights would dim or flicker. Too much and equipment could be damaged. Thomas Edison's first power station in New York, opened in 1882, served only a few square blocks. It worked, but it could not scale. Every neighborhood would have needed its own generator, its own fuel supply, its own constant monitoring. This was wildly inefficient, and it left entire regions vulnerable. If one small plant failed, an entire neighborhood went dark, with no backup. There had to be a better way to deliver power across an entire country, not just a city block. The solution that emerged is called the electrical grid, and it might be the largest, most interconnected machine ever constructed. The basic idea is simple to describe but staggering in execution. Instead of every neighborhood generating its own power, large power plants generate electricity in bulk and feed it into a shared network. That network distributes electricity over enormous distances, balancing supply and demand continuously, automatically, and almost instantaneously. Today, a single power grid can connect thousands of power plants to hundreds of millions of homes, businesses, hospitals, and factories, all drawing from the same shared pool of electricity at the same time. But this raises an enormous engineering challenge. If electricity can't be stored, how does the grid make sure exactly the right amount of power is being generated at every single moment for millions of unpredictable users, all switching things on and off whenever they please? This is where the system reveals just how precisely it has to be engineered. Every electrical grid runs at a specific frequency. In most of the world, that's 50 or 60 cycles per second, depending on the country. This frequency isn't arbitrary. It's a constant, living signal that represents the balance between how much electricity is being generated and how much is being consumed at every single instant. When demand rises, say everyone turns on their air conditioning during a heat wave, the grid frequency begins to dip slightly. When demand falls, the frequency creeps upward. Grid operators monitor this frequency every fraction of a second, and they adjust power generation in real time to keep it perfectly stable. Power plants ramp up or down. Backup generators come online. Energy gets redirected from one region to another. All of this happens automatically, continuously, invisibly, every second of every day, all so that the fridge in your kitchen keeps humming at exactly the right rhythm. If the frequency drifts too far in either direction, the consequences can be catastrophic. Equipment can be damaged. Entire regions can experience blackouts. In extreme cases, parts of the grid can be forced to shut down entirely to protect themselves from cascading failure. This single number, the frequency, is the heartbeat of the modern world, and almost nobody has ever heard of it. But here's the part that genuinely surprises people once they understand it. The grid isn't just balancing supply and demand, it's predicting the future every single day before it happens. Utility companies use historical data, weather forecasts, and behavioral patterns to estimate exactly how much electricity an entire region will need, hour by hour, sometimes minute by minute. They know that demand spikes around 6 in the evening when people get home from work and start cooking. They know demand drops in the middle of the night. They know a hot summer afternoon means millions of air conditioners will turn on almost simultaneously. Power plants are then scheduled to ramp their output up or down to match these predicted patterns, often hours or even a full day in advance. This means that somewhere, right now, an algorithm has already predicted that you, specifically as part of a wider population, will turn on your lights tonight. And a power plant is preparing to generate that exact amount of electricity just in time for you to flip the switch. You are, in a very real sense, an input into a forecasting model running continuously across the entire electrical grid. This system isn't just complex, it's also remarkably fragile if mismanaged, which is why grids around the world are built with deliberate redundancy. If one power plant suddenly goes offline due to mechanical failure, extreme weather, or unexpected demand, the grid needs to instantly compensate using power from elsewhere. This is achieved through interconnections, massive transmission lines linking different regions, states, and even countries together. This is also why widespread blackouts, when they do happen, are so dramatic. They aren't usually caused by a single failure. They're caused by a cascading chain reaction, one part of the system failing, overloading a neighboring part, which then fails too, spreading outward like falling dominoes. The Northeast Blackout of 2003 in the United States and Canada began with a single software bug at one utility company in Ohio. Within hours, it had cascaded across 8 states and part of Canada, leaving roughly 55 million people without power. A glitch most people would never have noticed, in one control room, in one building, ended up plunging an enormous region into darkness. This is the price of interconnection. The same system that keeps your lights on with extraordinary reliability is also capable of failing on a massive scale, if even one part breaks down at the wrong moment. So tonight, when you flip a switch and the light comes on instantly, you won't be thinking about any of this. You'll just expect it, the way you always have. But somewhere, a power plant generated that exact amount of electricity in the same instant you needed it. Grid operators were monitoring a frequency you've never heard of, adjusting output in real time to keep it perfectly balanced. An algorithm had already predicted hours in advance that you'd be using power right around this time. And all of it traveled to your home through one of the most intricate, interconnected machines humanity has ever built, arriving at your wall socket exactly when you needed it and not a moment before. Nothing about it feels engineered. It feels invisible, automatic, ordinary. But tomorrow, when you flip that same switch without thinking, you'll know what's actually happening behind it. A vast, predictive, self-balancing machine spanning an entire continent, quietly working to make sure your house never goes dark.